Revealed, how one loneliness changed everything for a shivering nurse and her baby at a bus stop. Sarah stood at the desolate bus stop, her reality sinking in like the cold winter wind wrapping around her. She cradled Emily, her infant daughter, close to her heart, the tiny body a fragile warmth against the bitter chill. After another grueling double shift at the hospital, her spirit felt heavy. Dreams of a better life flickered in her mind, a life where her sacrifices as a devoted nurse and a single mom were recognized, lifted above the backdrop of an indifferent city. Around her, the world hustled by, people in tailored suits and bright smiles, their lives seemingly untouched by struggle. Each face was a reminder of the burdens she carried, bills creeping in, endless night shifts, and the weight of judgment she felt because she was alone. The American dream felt more like a distant fantasy than a reachable goal. As she shivered, loneliness seeped in, and she longed for connection, a fleeting moment of solidarity amidst the silent judgment. Her heart ached as she wrapped her arms tighter around Emily, when suddenly, an unexpected voice broke through the haze. It was Mr. Jenkins, an elderly war veteran whose smile seemed to shine, even against the dreary backdrop of the bus stop. His weathered face told tales of resilience, and as he began to share his stories of struggle, Sarah found herself captivated. The warmth of camaraderie began igniting hope within her. They laughed at shared memories of hardship, and for a moment, the biting wind faded into the background. Just as Sarah was starting to believe that maybe everything would be okay, the air crackled with tension. A sharply dressed businessman appeared, his smirk a scornful mark against the brightness of Mr. Jenkins' spirit. With a dismissive wave, he sneered at Sarah and her baby. "Need a handout, sweetheart?" he mocked, eyes glinting with contempt. Each word was a fresh blow to her dignity, and the temperature seemed to drop even further as her self-worth wavered under his judgment. Damar. Jenkins stood tall, anger sparking in his protective gaze. "You don't know her story," he challenged the businessman. "You see a woman struggling, but you fail to see a mother fighting for her child." His voice was steady, yet the urgency radiated as he forced the man to confront the consequences of his dismissive attitude. For Sarah, the moment felt surreal, an elderly man standing up for her like a knight in a forgotten tale, his fury a strange source of strength, but doubt weighed heavy on her heart. Even amidst the fiery determination of Mr. Jenkins, could anyone truly see her worth? Just as the bus approached, its headlights illuminating the dark scene, Sarah felt the tension of the moment culmination. She was torn between the desire to escape and the need to confront her feelings about her place in the world. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the doors of the bus swung shut, wrapping her in interior warmth, Sarah's heart raced. She was left standing at the edge of a new beginning, struggling to find her voice in a world that often silenced the hopes of individuals like her. Would she muster the courage to rise above the barriers society placed in her way? Would she reclaim her space, her identity? The questions hung heavy, like the bitter wind outside, but within, a spark of resilience began to ignite. The bus lurched into motion, taking Sarah away from the cold reality of the stop and the sting of judgment that seemed to cling to her. Inside, the air was warmer, but her heart continued to race, pulsating with the whirlwind of emotions still swirling inside. She looked around the bus. The rows of indifferent faces stared blankly at their screens or gazed out at the passing cityscape. None of them knew her story. None of them recognized the sacrifices that lay wrapped up in the fragile bundle she held. Emily cooed softly, her innocent giggle breaking through Sarah's overwhelming thoughts. The sound was like a balm, soothing the jagged edges of her anxiety. Sarah smiled down at her daughter, the light in her dark world. That tiny face, with its button nose and wide eyes filled with trust, reminded her of what truly mattered. Her purpose flickered brightly. It was all for Emily. As they traveled further, the streets flashed by like the objects in her life, ever moving, sometimes exhilarating, often isolating. But in the anonymity of the bus, deep inside her, a question began to take shape. Who did she want to be? The question taunted her in the way that doubt does, creeping in when she least expected it. Was she merely a struggling nurse, a single mother defined by her circumstances, or could she be more? The bus jolted to a stop, and Sarah's heart jumped. Mr. Jenkins had talked passionately about community, about standing together. His words resonated with her, igniting something she hadn't noticed before. She blinked back tears, focusing on them. Perhaps it wasn't enough just to endure her loneliness, perhaps she could reach out, grab hold of others fighting similar battles and harness that collective strength into something transformative. By the time they reached her stop, Sarah felt a swirl of determination. She stepped off the bus, holding Emily close against her heart. The night was dark, but her spirits began to lift. The bitterness of the city faded a little with each step. A tiny flame of hope flickered brightly inside her chest. As she pushed the stroller through the familiar streets, she spotted a small community center, its lights shining brightly against the gloom. The sign outside advertised support groups and family nights. A stir of excitement washed over her. Could this place hold the answer she was seeking? Just maybe, it was a place where conversations fluttered like wings, where stories were shared and where connections could flourish. But just as she turned toward the entrance, a voice broke through her thoughts, sharp and familiar. Look who it is. The nurse with the baby and the broken dreams. It was the businessman from the bus stop, his contempt laced with a mocking tone. Her heart sank. Just another social program begging for handouts, huh? He continued, laughter rolling off his tongue like venom. The weight of doubt came crashing back in, clinging like fog. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, but deep inside, something stirred, a courage she didn't know existed. The tension pulsed around her, and she looked at him straight in the eyes, feeling the fire within ignite. I'm here to make a change. Not just for me but for others like me. His expression hardened, and for a moment, she feared she had crossed a line. But then, steel fell into her voice. This wasn't just about her. It was about everyone she met in the trenches, battling their own loneliness and striving for a better life. With that thought echoing in her mind, she took a step toward the community center, ready to dive into something deeper and unsure if this confrontation would lead to reassurance or further judgment. What would she encounter as she entered? Would she find allies among the other souls seeking connection, or would the bitterness of others try to extinguish her flame before it even burned bright? As Sarah pushed the stroller closer to the community center entrance, her heart thumped loudly, drowning out the lingering whispers of the businessman's disdain. She touched Emily's hand gently, letting the warmth of that tiny grip ground her. It was time. Time to be brave. The center was alive with chatter, laughter washing over her like a warm wave. Brightly colored posters hung on the walls, announcing everything from yoga classes to storytelling nights. It felt welcoming, inviting even. Just beyond the door, a small group of people gathered, exchanging stories and smiles. She hesitated, longing to join them but feeling the weight of judgment still hanging around her like an ill-fitting coat. Then she saw a woman with her own baby cradling the little one against her shoulder, eyes sparkling with hope and familiarity. Sarah felt a tug of recognition. There she was, another mother, perhaps facing her own battles. With a deep breath, Sarah lifted her chin and walked in. Hey there. Are you new? The woman with the baby asked, her voice bright and warm. I'm Mia. This is my little Jamie. We just started coming here. Sarah felt a rush of relief wash over her. I'm Sarah, she replied, offering a tentative smile. This is Emily. They chatted for a moment, exchanging stories about sleepless nights and the joys of motherhood. Mia's laughter wrapped around Sarah like a blanket, warming places inside her that had been cold for far too long. For the first time in ages, she felt a flicker of connection. Why did you decide to come? Mia asked, her gaze gentle yet probing, as if she sensed that Sarah needed more than just a friendly face. "I'm just trying to put the pieces together," Sarah admitted, her voice shaky, revealing more than she intended. "I want more for Emily. I want to be more than what I am." Mia nodded, her understanding evident. "You're not alone. We all feel that way sometimes. This place, it helps." Just then, a middle-aged man approached with a welcoming smile, introducing himself as Tom, the community center coordinator. "Welcome. We're glad to have you here. We're like family, we support each other, and we grow together. Would you like to join our support group tonight?" The idea sent a thrill of apprehension through her. Sarah's heart was a mix of hopeful and terrified. Could she open up to strangers? Could she really lay her fears bare? But amid the trepidation, this feeling bubbled up inside her, a certainty that she needed this, that Emily deserved this. "Yes, I'd like that," she heard herself say, her voice steadier than she felt. The meeting began shortly after, the room filling with an assortment of people, some laughing, others quiet, but all sharing a common bond of seeking solace from their struggles. Sarah sat in the circle, the anxious knot in her stomach twisting tighter as they began to share their stories. When it was her turn, she hesitated, heart pounding. Yet as she spoke of her challenges, loss and courage, dreams and despair, she saw the glimmers of recognition in the eyes around her. Stories echoed back about struggles similar to her own, lives painted in shades of gray, yet threaded with resilience. Encouragement flowed back like a tide, wrapping around her heart with understanding that a sense of belonging began to seep into her bones, and for the first time in a long while, her fear started to loosen its grip. This place, this gathering, felt like the fragile ember of hope she had hoped to find. But just as the warmth wrapped around her, the door burst open unexpectedly. A new voice, sharp and aggressive, cut through the camaraderie. "Look at all these losers!" Sarah's heart raced as she turned to see a group of young men, laughter filled with scorn. Would they come to ruin this moment of connection? Or worse, would they challenge her burgeoning courage? The room fell silent. Everyone turned to gauge the newcomers, the tension palpable. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. In that moment, she could feel the weight of her choices. They had all led her here, to this moment. What would she do next? Would she stand firm in the community she was beginning to embrace, or would fear drive her back into isolation? Sarah's heart pounded painfully in her chest as she turned to face the newcomers. The rowdy group stood at the doorway, their laughter echoing like thunder, intent on breaking the fragile peace that had filled the room just moments before. Mia reached over, placing a reassuring hand on Sarah's arm. "Ignore them," she whispered, her voice barely audible beneath the newfound tension. But it wasn't just the intrusion that rattled her, it was the potential reflection of her own fears in these men. She had spent too long feeling small, believing the whispers of judgment would always follow her. The validation she had found in this group was quickly threatened, and she felt that familiar, creeping sensation of doubt seeping in. The young men exchanged glances, their smirks full of bravado, clearly enjoying the effect they had on the gathering. One of them, taller than the rest with dark, messy hair, broke away from the group and swaggered toward the circle, his gaze landing firmly on Sarah. "Are you all really that desperate for friends?" he sneered, gesturing around. "What a pathetic bunch." An awkward silence hung in the air, thick with potential conflict. Sarah's heartbeat pulsed in her ears, drowning out the sounds around her. She watched others shift uncomfortably in their seats, some glancing at her, seeking her response. Then something inside her shifted. The memory of Emily's small hand in hers reminded Sarah of the fire that lived within her, the fierce love she felt for her daughter. She couldn't let this moment snuff out what little light she had found. "I think it takes courage to connect," Sarah found her voice, steadier than she felt. The words came out more confident than she anticipated, and she surprised herself. "We're all here trying to support each other. What is your reason for really being here?" For a moment, the young man's bravado faltered. The laughter around the circle died down, replaced with murmurs of support, voices rallying behind Sarah's challenge. It was a small moment, but it felt monumental. Before he could respond, Tom intervened. "This is a safe space," he said firmly, moving to stand between Sarah and the intruders. "If you're not here to embrace that, I suggest you leave." The tension broke slightly, replaced by a charged anticipation. The young men exchanged looks, the rowdy bravado disappearing in the face of unity. Sarcasm died on their lips as they hesitated, their arrogance dampened by the sudden solidarity around them. The taller one inhaled sharply but glanced at his friends. He shook his head, turning away as the group slinked back out the door, muttering inaudibly. A wave of relief washed over Sarah as the door clicked shut behind them. The group let out a collective breath, laughter bubbling back to life in fits and starts, the atmosphere shifting as feelings of safety re-emerged. Mia nodded at her, eyes wide with admiration. "You stood up to them. That was amazing." But instead of basking in the glow of victory, a new fear surfaced. What if standing up meant inviting more confrontation? What if her voice, her courage, became a target? The group resumed their discussions, slightly rattled but invigorated. Yet, amidst the laughter, Sarah felt at odds with herself. She had faced the intruders but still felt the remnants of doubt clinging to her. Then, as the meeting continued, Tom turned to her, his eyes kind but probing. "You did great. It's important not to let outside negativity extinguish your light. What's next for you in this place?" His question hung in the air, echoing inside her. What would she choose to do now? Would she allow fear of backlash to hold her back, or would she lean into the newfound strength she felt growing within her? Sarah closed her eyes momentarily, drawing in a breath, and as she opened them again, a spark ignited. She could feel that this was just the beginning. But then the door swung open again, and a new figure stepped in, and Sarah froze. Was it a friend? Or would this moment bring more fear than she ever expected? The figure that stepped through the door was not just anyone, it was Laura, a woman Sarah had met during her hospital shifts. Laura appeared different today, her eyes reflecting a whirlwind of emotions, fear flickering over her face like a candle struggling against the wind. "Laura!" Sarah exclaimed, feeling a rush of recognition and concern. She hurried toward her, the others parting like water as she moved. "Sarah! I need help." Laura's voice quivered, barely contained. She glanced behind her, as if the shadows bore threats of their own. "What's wrong?" Sarah asked, keeping her eyes locked on Laura, reading the panic etched across her features. "They're coming for me. I don't know where to go." Laura's gaze dropped, and she whispered, "They found me." Immediately, a chill raced down Sarah's spine. Who was after Laura? Why was she in a panic? The questions surged like a tidal wave, but Sarah focused on the woman before her, trying to be a calm anchor in the storm. "Let us sit down," Sarah said softly, leading her to a quieter corner of the room, away from curious eyes and lingering tension. They settled onto a pair of chairs, and Sarah could feel her heart thrumming in her chest, echoing Laura's anxiety. As soon as they were out of earshot, Laura leaned in. "I didn't think I would find you here. I mean, it's hard to explain, but I had to get away." "It's okay," Sarah reassured her. "You're safe here. Just tell me what's happening." Laura took a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she clasped them on her lap. "I had to leave the community center. I thought my husband would leave it alone, but he listened in. I overheard him talking to someone. I think he's involved in something dangerous." Sarah's eyes widened. She had always sensed Laura was caught in a web of complexity, but this revelation hit much deeper. "What do you mean? Dangerous how?" Laura's voice broke. "He's mixed up with people who aren't just gossiping. They're looking for something debts, maybe." She squeezed her eyes shut, breathing deeply. "I can't go back. I can't risk Emily. If they find out where we are." The mention of Emily, a name Sarah held in her heart, made her stomach twist with concern. She thought of her own daughter at home, and how fiercely she would defend her. "Then you're coming with me?" You can stay with us, Sarah said, a fierce resolve rising within her. There was no question now, she wouldn't let Laura face this alone. Laura shook her head slowly. No, I can't. If he finds me I'll put you in danger. Just then, Tom came over, sensing the weight of their conversation. Everything okay here? He asked gently. Laura needs help, Sarah interjected quickly, looking at Laura for affirmation, hoping she would see the moment for what it was, a chance for safety, for a new chapter away from fear. Yes, Laura whispered, a small flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. Maybe she didn't have to shoulder this burden alone. But before they could process the next step or speak further, a loud voice pulled them back to the moment. What's that? Someone's in need, I hear. The interruption came from outside. Sarah's heart sank as she realized the newcomers hadn't left this time. They had brought friends. With a sinking feeling, she glanced at Laura, whose face had drained of color, then back at Tom, who immediately tensed. What do we do now? Sarah asked, uncertainty gnawing at her. The door swung open wider, and several figures marched in, their faces a mask of determination. A sense of foreboding blanketed the room. I think they're here for Laura, Tom murmured, eyes hardening. As fear gripped her heart, Sarah's mind raced. Would she stand strong again? Would her voice be a shield against whatever darkness loomed, threatening to engulf them all? Time seemed to stretch painfully, and she knew the moment of truth had arrived. Would they fight or would they run? And in that pivotal moment, Sarah made her choice. The figures that stepped through the door were imposing, their intentions clear as they sprawled across the threshold like shadows come to claim their prey. Sarah felt the air thicken, pushing against her chest, and she inhaled sharply, straining to hold on to her focus. Stay close, she whispered to Laura, who was now pressed against Sarah's side, her trembling hands clutching the fabric of Sarah's shirt like a lifeline. Who are they? Laura whispered, her voice barely audible above the oppressive silence. Sarah didn't have an answer. She knew they weren't just strangers, there was an undeniable intensity in their eyes, a brutal determination that made her skin crawl. They're here for you, Laura. But I swear, I won't let them take you. We'll figure something out, Sarah replied, her heart hammering as her mind raced to devise a plan. Tom stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of Laura and Sarah, his posture emanating strength. What do you want? He demanded, voice steady, though the tremor in his hands betrayed his fear. One of the figures, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward, a sneer twisting his lips. We're not here to chat, buddy. Just don't get in our way. He gestured dismissively, as if Tom's presence was a mere inconvenience. Sarah peered at Laura, reading the terror etched into her features. The realization sank in, they had to act quickly. We need to get out of here, she whispered, desperately scanning for an exit, for any escape route. They won't let us leave, Laura said, fear growing in her voice. Trust me. I have an idea. With a quick nod, Sarah took a step back, edging toward the window at the back of the room. This part of the building was older, its windows neglected and framed by dust. It was risky, but they had little choice. We just need to distract them, she murmured, considering her options. As if reading her thoughts, Laura's voice rose. I could draw them away, maybe they'll follow me. What? No. Sarah protested, gripping Laura's arm. We can't have you running out there alone. But the glimmer of determination ignited in Laura's eyes. It's the only way. They want me. If I can keep them occupied, you and Tom can escape. Just go. Before Sarah could respond, the towering figure took a step forward. What are you two whispering about? His voice was a low growl, and he demanded their attention. In one quick, courageous move, Laura broke free from Sarah's grasp. I'll give you what you want. She shouted, turning to face the approaching men, defiance thick in her tone. The figures paused, intrigued, eyes glinting with a dangerous curiosity. Laura, no. Come back. Sarah yelled, panic welling inside her. But Laura stood firm, the power of her protective instinct blossoming. Just let them pass, Sarah. I'll do this. For Emily. The mention of her daughter pierced through the chaos, igniting a sense of urgency in Sarah's heart. Underneath the surface of panic surged something stronger, a powerful bond of motherhood, a fierce love that could overcome fear. The lead figure stepped closer, sizing Laura up. What do you have to offer? I can tell you where I was last night, Laura replied, her voice steadying as she began to weave a story. I saw something. Something you might want. At that moment, time hung suspended. The room transformed into a battleground of choices and sacrifices, with Sarah caught between the burning need to protect her friend and the overwhelming urge to flee. Laura, don't, Sarah began, but the words caught in her throat. Where was this leading? Was Laura's sacrifice the only way out? And as the tension wrapped its icy fingers around them, the reality settled in, time was slipping away, and decisions had to be made. Would they risk it all for a life free from fear, or would they be left to face an unseen future filled with darkness? As Laura stared down the figures, Sarah felt her heart teetering on the edge of hope and despair. What would they decide in this moment of uncertainty? Would salvation arise from chaos, or would it all crash down around them? The weight of the moment pressed heavily on Sarah as she watched Laura confront their captors, her heart filled with swirling emotions. The other figures shifted slightly, eyes narrowing as they began to sense the urgency in the air. Sarah's mind raced, trying to make sense of Laura's brave gamble, clinging to a sliver of hope that this might work. Tell us everything, the lead figure demanded, his voice low but edged with impatience. He took another step closer, his bulk blocking the light and casting shadows across Laura's trembling frame. For a heartbeat, silence reigned in the room. The tension was palpable, wrapping around them like a noose. Sarah's heart thudded louder, each beat echoing the growing fear that engulfed her. Would her friend's sacrifice be in vain? Laura swallowed hard, her hands shaking but her voice steady. I was at the diner last night. I saw someone you're looking for. Sarah's breath hitched. The mention of danger drawn near made her stomach twist. What had Laura witnessed? Was she really willing to risk it all for a chance to save them? What does he look like? The lead figure pressed, his eyes glinting with anticipation. Scruffy, wearing a dark hoodie. He was talking to someone in the back of the diner. They seemed to be planning something, she stammered, hoping her words would weave the right web of intrigue to keep them focused on her and away from Sarah and Tom. The other figures shifted, visibly intrigued. Why didn't you come to us right away? One of them asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. Laura's gaze hardened. I didn't know it was important at the time. I thought it was just a conversation, but then, when I saw you. Enough with the theatrics. The lead figure barked, primal frustration etched on his face. What do you want, exactly? Your life for a few scraps of information. That's hardly a fair trade. It was more than just a trade, it was a gamble on survival. The risk clenched Sarah's heart, but she couldn't let panic swallow her whole. She needed a way to turn the tide. Wait! She shouted, cutting through the tension like a knife. If you let Laura go and leave us in peace, we can help you track down this guy. We can find out what he knows. Together. All eyes shifted to Sarah, uncertainty flickering among the figures. What makes you think we can trust you? One of them scoffed, folding his arms over his chest. Because we can inform you where he might be again, Tom chimed in, stepping beside Sarah, determination clear in his eyes. This is risky for us all. Let us think about the bigger picture. You're not leaving empty-handed. Laura caught Sarah's gaze, and in that moment, words unspoken passed between them: understanding, determination, unity. They were tethered together by something powerful, something that could not be easily broken. The lead figure considered them for a long moment, weighing the words in his mind. The room pulsed with silence, a battleground of desperate hope, the air thick with uncertainty. Finally, he sighed, frustration flickering like flames. You have one chance to convince me. Make it count. Heart racing, Sarah knew this was their moment. They had to pull together, to trust each other, to conjure something out of thin air that spoke of salvation. All right, we'll prove it, Sarah said slowly, summoning every ounce of courage. We'll lead you straight to him. But first, let Laura go. As the figures exchanged glances, Sarah felt her heart soar with possibility. But the weight of uncertainty still loomed large. Would they accept the deal, or would everything she had worked for fall apart? And just then, the lead figure smiled a predatory grin that sent shivers down her spine. Let us see how this story turns out. With that, the tension exploded and chaos erupted. Would their plan withstand the storm, or would they find themselves trapped in a nightmare of their own making? Laura's heart raced as the heavy tension snapped into chaos. The lead figure barked orders, his voice rising above the clamor while the others began to shuffle, their intentions unclear but undoubtedly dangerous. Sarah could feel the air growing thicker around them, charged with raw uncertainty. Get her! One of the men yelled, lunging toward Laura, but Sarah thrust herself forward instinctively, blocking him. Wait! She shouted again, panic slicing through her resolve as she faced the gang. Please, we can help you. The lead figure's grin flickered, his gaze darting to each member of his crew. I would be careful with your words, he warned, his smirk laid thick with menace. Let us not waste time, Tom interjected, stepping closer to the lead figure, trying to fill the space with courage. If you want the information she promised, we need to keep her safe. The room settled into an uneasy quiet, all eyes focused on the lead figure. He seemed to weigh their suggestion, his brow furrowing slightly. And why would we trust you against what we just witnessed? Do you really think we're fools? For a brief moment, Sarah could see the flicker of doubt in the eyes of his crew. They were uncertain, maybe even frightened. But she had to push harder. Because we know more than you think. We can find him, we can lead you to the truth. Just let Laura go. Laura watched Sarah, her heart swelling with both fear and gratitude. Every breath she took felt like a prayer that this gamble would pay off. The lead figure stepped back, contemplating. One more chance to convince me. What do you know about this man? Each second dragged painfully. Sarah steeled herself, drawing upon fragments of her thoughts to create an image. He*s connected, dangerous. He*s not just some nobody, he*s involved in something much bigger, something that could threaten us all. If you let Laura go, we can draw him out, give you a chance to capture him. The lead figure's expression twisted, unsure of whether to believe her or not. Her words hung in the air, mingling with desperation and hope. We'll lead you there. Just trust us. With each word, she felt a spark of solidarity, a bond growing stronger between her, Laura, and Tom. Like a shield against the chaos, the lead figure stared at them, his gaze lingering on Laura, who looked so fragile but fierce at the same time. He took a long breath, then nodded curtly. Fine. She goes. But know your lives are forfeit if you betray me. The announcement sent a wave of relief coursing through Sarah. But just as hope started blossoming in her chest, the ground beneath them trembled. From the shadows, a low rumble of voices rose, echoing a different energy, the unmistakable sound of another group entering the scene. What was that? Tom asked, fear creeping back into his voice. The lead figure's eyes lit up with a predatory excitement. Looks like we're not alone anymore, he hissed, drawing a blade and pointing it toward the entrance. Sarah's heart dropped. The atmosphere shifted again, swirling with danger, a new threat looming large. Stay close. She whispered urgently, pulling Laura and Tom alongside her as they backed toward a wall, the oncoming figures drawing nearer. The chaos of the moment intensified, echoing with urgency. Would their desperate plan to escape this nightmare be enough? Would they be able to survive whatever emerged from the shadows? Then, the door burst open, and they were met with a flood of uncertain faces, the chaos brimming over once more. As Sarah tightened her grip on Laura's arm, she could feel the fear gnawing at the edges of her courage, and she knew they had to act quickly. "Whatever happens, stay together," Sarah breathed, ready to face whatever storm awaited them. But from behind the newcomers, a familiar voice called out, "I'm here to help." As Sarah turned to see who it was, questions raced through her mind. Did they truly have an ally, or was it all just another trap? Her heart raced, fear and hope colliding in her chest. "Who are you?" she demanded, as the tension hung heavy once more. Would this help be their salvation or a new unraveling of their fate? The sudden voice cut through the chaos like a knife, leaving everyone momentarily stunned. A figure emerged from the throng of newcomers, stepping into the dim light, their features obscured by a hood. Sarah squinted, heart pounding in her chest, trying to make sense of the silhouette. "Who are you?" she repeated, firmer this time, guarding Laura like a fortress. "Just someone who knows the truth about what is going on," the figure said, their tone steady despite the tension. As they lowered their hood, Sarah's breath caught. It was a face from the past, Daniel, an old friend turned informant, someone she thought she'd never see again. "Daniel?" Sarah breathed, the haze of panic lifting just slightly. "What are you doing here?" Before he could answer, the lead figure with the knife narrowed his gaze at Daniel, posture tensing again. "You know him?" he asked, the menace creeping back into his voice. Yes, I'm no friend of his," Daniel interrupted, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "But I can help." "Enough with the theatrics." The lead figure barked, eyes darting between Sarah, Daniel, and the others storming through the door. "Do you have information or not?" "Something much worse is coming," Daniel said quickly, urgency creeping into his words. "The man you're looking for. He's not alone anymore. They're all after Laura." Sarah felt her heart plummet. "What do you mean?" "His associates are closing in. They won't stop until they have her, or until they eradicate anyone who gets in their way." The revelation hit her like a cold shower, chilling every ounce of hope they clung to. How could they deal with an unseen threat? Numbers swelled outside, and panic tiptoed back into the corners of her mind as adrenaline coursed through her veins. "Then we need to move," Sarah insisted, her voice rising. "We don't have time to waste." Tom stepped closer to Daniel, eyes narrowed. "If you're lying, I'm not," Daniel interrupted again, his tone grave. "Believe me, I wouldn't risk my neck walking in here if I didn't think it was urgent." The lead figure gestured sharply. "You want to lead? Then get moving." Sarah tugged at Laura, feeling the weight of the moment press down on her. "We have to trust him, even if it's just this once." With a steadying breath, she turned to Daniel, searching his gaze. "Do you know a way out? A safe place?" Daniel nodded and pointed toward a narrow alley behind the main doors. "This way. But we need to be quick. Follow my lead." Laura was pale but resilient. "Let us go." As they edged toward the alley, the sense of urgency turned electric. Heartbeats could be heard over crashing footsteps and hushed voices, rising and falling like a frantic symphony of survival. Each step poured fear into the air, but there was also a powerful bond being forged. They had to succeed. They had to survive. Just as they made it to the threshold of the alley, a loud crash erupted from the doorway behind them, sending shockwaves through the group. "Hurry!" Sarah yelled, pushing them forward. Suddenly, a shout pierced through the din. "There they are!" Adrenaline shot through Sarah as she moved instinctively, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. Then Daniel turned back abruptly, locking eyes with Sarah. "There is something else you should know," something about Laura. Before he could finish, the chaos erupted anew, and they had to sprint down the alley. The air thickened with panic. What could he possibly mean? What was he hiding about Laura? Questions swirled as they raced, shadows closing in from behind. Would they be able to escape this time, or was the truth about to unravel everything? The alley was narrow and dark, the light from the street barely penetrating the gloom. Sarah felt fear pulse in her veins, mingling with the thumping rhythm of her heart. They sprinted forward, adrenaline propelling them, the echoes of pursuing footsteps growing louder behind them. "Keep going!" Sarah shouted, urgency coursing through her. Laura clung tightly to Sarah as they rushed through the alley. They needed to find safety. A way to escape whatever threat loomed behind them. Daniel led the way, darting around corners with an agility that seemed almost impossible given the chaos unfolding. Almost there, Daniel panted. Just a little further. But fear and doubt gnawed at Sarah. "What did you mean about Laura?" she shouted, pushing her legs to move faster. She had to know. "Not now." Daniel yelled back, glancing over his shoulder. Anxiety spread across his face, and the urgency was palpable in the air. They reached another street and skidded to a halt, Daniel scanning for options. "This way." He motioned, lunging toward a small door tucked between two brick buildings. At that moment, the sound of their pursuers filled the alley, shouting excitedly, emboldened by the promise of confrontation. "Go! Go!" Sarah urged, shoving the door open and pulling Laura inside just as the first shadows of their chasers flickered in the entrance. Inside, they found a small storage room, cluttered with old boxes and supplies. Daniel quickly closed the door behind them and locked it tight. "We'll have to be quiet," he whispered, his voice edged with tension. "They might check here, but hopefully not for long. Tell us what is going on." Laura breathed, trembling beside Sarah. "Why are they after me?" Daniel's expression was grave. "It's about your husband. He's mixed up in something dark, criminal connections. I overheard him the other night. He's made enemies, and they think you're a liability. With you trying to leave him, they're afraid you'll expose them, so they'll do anything to find you before that happens." A wave of dread washed over Sarah. Fear for Laura's safety collided with concern for her own daughter. "But we won't let them take you," she said firmly, forcing herself to anchor her resolve. Laura blinked back tears, crushed by the weight of betrayal and danger. I thought I could get away and we'd be safe. Now I've put you all at risk," she murmured, her voice tremulous. Sarah felt a surge of protectiveness. "This was never your fault. We're all in this together now. None of us are alone." Tom nodded, his breathing heavy but determined. "We'll figure a way out of this. We won't let them tear us apart." Outside, the sound of footsteps grew faint, voices fading into the distance. Daniel glanced back through a small window, his eyes scanning the street. "We'll have to wait. If they didn't see us coming here, we might have a few minutes to breathe." As they stood together in the dim storage room, surrounded by uncertainty and clutter, something shifted within Sarah. She felt the weight of doubt lifting, replaced by a fierce resolve that had sparked the moment she cradled Emily in her arms. Love and unity could shield them all. "Okay," Sarah said, voice steady and filled with new determination. "We need a plan. A way to put ourselves in a position of strength, not fear." Laura met Sarah's gaze, something shifting in her expression as hope flickered. "We need to find out how to turn the tables on them. We're smarter together than they think." "Yes," Tom agreed, glancing at Daniel for support. "And Daniel knows the streets better than anyone. You can guide us, right?" Daniel nodded slowly, determination creeping back to his face. "I know where their networks run, where they hide. We can set a trap for them, flush them out." "Then let us do it," Sarah said, feeling the fire of courage ignite in her. "We reclaim our lives. And we'll protect each other." Outside, the sound of laughter echoed faintly, but inside this small room, a palpable shift took place. The whispers of doubt faded into the background. They were not merely victims anymore, they were fighters. Together, just as she felt the tide of their determination start to swell, a loud banging echoed on the door. Fear crashed back. A voice shouted from the other side, demanding entrance. Sarah's heart raced, but deep down, she felt something new, an unwavering belief that they could face whatever came next. That they would rise against the shadows, hold on to each other, and fight. From fear to fight, they were ready for whatever came their way. As they braced themselves for the confrontation ahead, Sarah whispered softly, "You don't have to be alone anymore, Laura. Together, we can do this." The sound of the door rattled again, but this time it felt different. This was not a crushing blow, but a mere challenge. They would face it as one united front, prepared to break free and step into the light of a new beginning. With hearts pounding, they prepared to trust in their strength. This was the moment of transformation, the turning point. The moment they would all realize that they were more than their circumstances, they were a force to be reckoned with. As the door creaked open, they stood together as one, ready to confront whatever lay on the other side. There was no turning back now. This was their fight. They would win together, and they would find their way home. So the new chapter was beginning, marked by resilience, courage, and the kind of friendship that can move mountains. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly matters. Comment below and share your thoughts and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's inspire each other.